Chris, were you aware that when Mike Ryan joined Canes Insight as a contributor and as a investor, that he was greeted with massive commitment was the headline. Massive commitment when Mike Ryan committed to Canes Insight to be somebody, to be a voice for the University of Miami at a place where people still go to get their University of Miami information. He is a foremost authority, and I wish to ask his unbiased opinion on what Ian Hest has tweeted, which is that Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Miami lost to Georgia Tech. Notre Dame's FPI is 10. Miami's FPI is 6. Notre Dame's strength of schedule is 78. Miami's is 19 spots higher, 59. 19 spots better, I should say, at 59. Why is Notre Dame ahead, 3 spots ahead of Miami? Mike Ryan, neutral, informed insider.
Yeah, all the things that you described definitely screams neutrality. I will say that. Look, Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference championship game. If Miami handles its business, they'll be ranked ahead of all these teams that you could poke holes in. I actually have more of an issue with Texas. I think if you look at where's their quality win, a lot of people are like, well, I guess their win over Florida looks really good now. Florida had 12 starters out when they played Texas. I think that you can poke a lot of holes in that. I think Indiana's played 3 teams with a winning record all season long. They kind of cracked the code that you can actually have a weak schedule inside the Big Ten and only face 3 winning teams. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of SEC propagandizing that kind of frustrates me. But again, I'm in the camp that it is actually the best conference in America, but it is also simultaneously wildly overrated. None of this stuff matters if Miami just handles its business.
I don't trust them to. Syracuse throws the ball a ton, and that's where they're weak. And I think it's really hard to win on the road. And I love this Miami season. It's been super exciting. I thought they played terribly against Wake Forest. I mean, Powell drops a pick 6, Restrepo fumbles, Cam doesn't look right the entire game, and they still win fairly easily. I think that this University of Miami team is better than the one that was 10-0, started 10-0 with Mark Richt. But that team that lost at Pittsburgh, I can see this team losing that game at Syracuse because of where Syracuse is strong and because it's hard to win on the road.
I have the same lack of trust in Miami, but at the same time, I think they can win it all because who do you trust?
Win it all?
Who do you trust?
You've got to win it all.
No, I'm not saying they're going to win it all.
No, but win it all. It's not that I don't trust. It's that defense is never allowed to win the championship. Never since I've been watching college football.
Who do you trust in college
football? And I say that about that defense even knowing that Wake Forest didn't have like a completion the entire second half. Whatever it was plaguing them in the first half was not plaguing them in the second half.
I'm right there with you on the defense. While they were, to me, clearly the best unit on the field for Miami, for a month and a half, Miami's run into opponents that know exactly what to do to attack Miami and get the best results for their offensive game plan. You force Miami outside the hash marks, you make them make tackles in space, and Wake Forest just decided to attack the A-gap all game long. Kiko had to stay within the hash marks, and just it was the perfect opponent and really a truly horrific game plan by Wake Forest. So I think it's fair, even after probably the best defensive performance of the season, to still have your questions because Miami is going to get challenged by teams to actually show that they've improved some of their weaker aspects. I don't think Wake did that. That being said, I'm not sure Syracuse will do that either because they're pretty tied in their identity. McCord likes to hold on to the ball and then freak out at the very last second. He throws the ball quite a bit. I think he averages more passing yards per game than even Cam Ward.
I think that team throws more than any in the country.
I think it's going to be another defensive line game. The D-line in this game is going to have the opportunity to get home. I'm encouraged by the opening line there, and if I told you before the season, year 3 of Mario Cristobal's program, all he has to do is beat Syracuse on the road to get to Charlotte. Every single one of you is taking it.
How does the ACC determine who plays for the conference championship?
The tie-breaking scenarios are kind of complicated, and I was running through this, and I think all the power conferences, Billy, need to take a look at this because we're seeing Indiana make it to a college football playoff in the impossible situation of we're not exactly sure how good they are, and they haven't been tested in what was supposed to be the most powerful conference in all of the land. There's head-to-head tie-breaking scenarios, but there were also tie-breaking scenarios in which you had 4 teams that probably would have been in the mix, and only 2 of them played each other. It needs to be looked at. I think divisions are a way to fix it. But to answer your question, SMU is in the championship game, already headed to Charlotte. Miami will be there if they beat Syracuse. If they lose, Clemson's in.
Stugotz.
Clemson's only ahead of them because right now they've played more.
Yeah,
games.
Clemson's done with their ACC schedule.
Okay.
How do you like Stugotz coming in here to tiebreaker talk? And there was somebody talking
love
about
a good tiebreaker.
Somebody was talking
and
about
an A gap.
Somebody was talking about an A gap when you came in.
Football.
Everyone's ready to get started.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the.
I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but minds keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Chris Cody, I want you to get me the dump truck that recycles sound, because Billy and Stugotz have just thundered in here from God Bless Football, and I want to be careful not to be redundant because the award-winning God Bless Football comes out earlier than we do. And I don't want to get leftover materials on their best stuff from the Duke and from Stugotz. So how much in the mix talk did you do on God Bless Football that the Dolphins are now firmly in the mix?
We did not do any
0.
in the mix talk. We didn't even talk about the Dolphins, really, to be honest. I said one throwaway statement. Dolphins played the best game of the day yesterday. Like start to finish, they were the best team in the NFL yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a high wire act,
Yes.
and I feel like we do a pretty good job, and I knew this is what we're probably going to be doing in the local hour today, in the Max Hour today on YouTube and DKN and Peacock and all the places you can watch it. So I said, you know what? I don't want to say I'm saving it, because I would say still check out God Bless Football. A lot of fun today. A lot of fun. Lucy's on there. We're talking about some college football. But we saved that for you, Dano.
Mm-hmm.
And so how much victory lap are you ready to take today? Because you told us all they would be 5-6. You told us all they would be in the mix. And I want to see where you are firmly entrenched on what this team is going to be. Because I don't know what the weather is Thursday in Green Bay, but that would be your test. Like, that would be an excellent place for the season to take one shape or another if you can go to Green Bay and do what you did against the Rams, because you still haven't beaten a good team this season.
Is it crazy to say that this game could potentially be the biggest game of Tua's career? And I say that because he can dispel so many of the doubts this weekend if he goes into a cold, bad weather Green Bay national TV and pulls off a win to get them back to 500, which is kind of like the part of the statement that is not great, but like there's already people talking about how important Tua is to this team. You see the Matt Ryans of the world saying no one is more important to their team than Tua is. So if you can go out there and you can win this cold weather game, I feel like it's an injection of confidence, a boost, Dan, that you can take moving forward and say, you know what? When the Bills overcome the Chiefs and then you go back and first round potentially is back in Kansas City, or a rematch from last year's playoffs in the first round, then you know you can do it in the cold, potentially. However, here's the flip side.
Oh, boy.
And this is the dirty part that we don't want to talk about, that no one wants to talk about.
The flip side.
Flip side. Mm-hmm. This is the spot where Tua gets a concussion every single time.
Oh,
Jesus.
National game.
No one wants to talk
in
about
the
it.
cold,
I mean, no
when
one wants to talk
everybody's
about it.
watching.
No
one wants to talk about
Nobody
it, but
talks
this
about
is
it.
prime concussion time for Tua. So we need to be very careful. because it always happens in this exact scenario.
No one wants to talk about
No
it.
one's talking about that, but this could be the biggest game of his career if he is to survive it.
He played in Kansas City last year. I mean, playoff game.
Okay, but I don't even know. Is this the right?
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless.
A little late.
Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good?
I don't know if that's the right sound or not. I don't have the.
It needed something that sound.
It's not reckless. He's just pointing out a trend, and
Well,
it's pretty
but-
irrefutable.
Yes.
Was it even him, though? I couldn't tell because there was a mystery voice speaking there. Was that Billy? I didn't hear who said that. It seemed like he was in character.
Those
I
are the
say?
people who want to talk about it, but they're not talking about
I
it.
just said this
Yeah.
could be the biggest game of his career, potentially.
That's what you said. But then in a different voice, you were saying this is the spot that this is the spot that America frets for him.
Who said that?
Like right before Thanksgiving,
On Thanksgiving.
I'm sorry. On Thanksgiving. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, family gathered around
No.
the TV.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's a late one, though. We talked about this. This is the late game is when everybody's kind of
A lot of napping, yeah.
tryptophan. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Everybody's already kind of like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's interesting is that the post-game message from Mike McDaniel to his team was all about playing on Thanksgiving against the Packers in this moment. He and Calais Campbell they were gassing this game up. They were immediately on to Green Bay.
Thank you for mentioning Calais Campbell because evidently, and this I haven't seen a whole lot around the cold business of sports. Let's talk about the story here at the center of the Dolphin huddle because Calais Campbell deserves a better ending than the one I think the Dolphins are going to give him. But it's not a better ending than the one Calais and Mike McDaniel seem to think that Calais can have here instead of with the Ravens because it would have made a lot of sense for them to just trade the oldest player in the league to the Ravens who could have used, hey, that dude's been a menace off the edge and up the middle of your defense because he's bigger and stronger than most people, and he has been for about 10 years, maybe longer. Yeah, probably longer, right? What is it now? We're looking at almost 20 years with Calais Campbell if you go back to watching him at the University of Miami. The Dolphins decided somewhere between 2-6 and 4-6 that their season could be salvaged. And at 5-6, Stugotz, even though it's ridiculous to talk about what Billy's talking about, which is 12 games in, you're 6-6. That's not what this season of expectations was about. But the 49ers feel different at 5-6 than the Dolphins do at 5-6 because when Tua plays for the Dolphins, what Billy says is right. Matt Ryan is saying no player clearly is more important to their team than this one is because the offense looks completely different. Stugotz, they've been playing. It's not just the toying with the no-look passes and all the ball handling that he does that, has everybody in the league, Chris Sims included on God Bless Football, calling him the guy who's best with the football. It's that they were using so much motion yesterday.
Yes.
Like that you go from what we were watching in that month-long stretch where they were 1-3 and they couldn't get to, 20 points against anybody to the way they play with Tua. It's startling to see the difference.
The obvious difference when you talk about the Niners and the Dolphins is the Niners are falling apart. Their players are getting hurt. The Dolphins are getting healthy right now, and specifically at that position. And Tua's been great. Like the last two games, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, 128.5 passer rating. He has been great to it.
Against nobody.
Against nobody. But, Dan, you know what? Waddle looks better. Jonnu Smith is amazing. Like, the team just looks better when Tua is running that offense, obviously.
Dan, to your point on motion, it was their highest rate of the season yesterday. 93.7% of their plays had motion.
You also saw yesterday Skylar Thompson be Skylar Thompson yet again. Like, you try to get Tua some rest. The game is a complete blowout. You're like, you know what? We made it through. Dominating performance. He looks great. Let's rest him up. Short week. Going to play on Thanksgiving. Skylar Thompson comes in and said, nah, let's have a little fun. Let's give the other team the ball. Have them run back the other way for a touchdown. They're like, Tua, back in there, buddy. We can't afford to lose this game.
Football yesterday, I texted Chris Cody and Stugotz a half hour before the 1 p.m. games, and I'm like, oh, man, today's the one that hurts you guys. You guys love those big favorites on the road in a season.
Yeah.
When getting points is obviously the thing to do because all of these games are so close. And both of you said you were threatening to have a bye week for gambling during the 1 o'clock games because the 1 o'clock games were so bad.
Yeah.
Think about this, okay? Think about the magic of this stupid sport. At 12:55, Chris Cody and Stugotz, legitimate degenerates, the both of them.
Thanks.
Thinking about a bye week on gambling, these 1 o'clock games, woof.
I was actually telling you that even gambling on these games will not make these games exciting.
That's what you were saying. Yes, you were thinking about taking a gambling bye week just to get ready for December, for Thanksgiving, for the postseason.
Yeah.
And then what happens? All at about the same time. There goes Patrick Mahomes running for 33 yards. Woo, the Chiefs escape. Oh, the Bears got an onside kick. Whoever recovers those, tie game. The Titans beat the Texans. Really? No one saw that coming. And then also, the Cowboys are going to win on the road, are they?
Oh, that
All
finish.
right. And it's going to be 4 touchdowns in 3 minutes at the end of the game when all of you thought the under was coming in when it was whatever it was, 3-0 at the half.
It was the best Sunday in NFL history.
Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Football.
All crap games, all of them. But they're just close. And they got stakes, and 5 and 6 is in the mix.
Was that the best witching hour of the season?
Unbelievable. It
was
lasted 2 hours.
fantastic.
It was 2 hours.
There was a Hail Mary in one, but no, he's right. The overtime went into, it bled into the 4:25 games. Hansen was disoriented. He was confused. I wanted to ask you guys on the broadcast on Saturday, I believe Mark Jones, who has been doing this for a really long time and has enjoyed it for a really long time and has gotten so good and confident at it, did the single most Miami broadcast I have ever heard on a national game. And furthermore, I'm pretty sure he was doing this on purpose, use an assortment of polysyllabic words just to do it. Just because he wanted to call the University of Miami defense intransigent. Somebody fumbled and he's like, oh, he regurgitated that one. He did it like a dozen times, and I'm convinced he's playing with his friends where he's like, I bet you I get this word in today. Like he's fooling around because they're words I've never heard on a sports broadcast.
Definitely a Miami broadcast. Gave the location of the stadium, Dan Marino Boulevard, 27th Avenue.
Oh,
Not a single
Carroll City, Liberty City, Overtown.
Miami Gardens.
He was saying where he got married. I've never heard such a Miami broadcast done nationally that way.
Where did he get married?
So it's church nearby. He was going to have service there the next day at 10 a.m.
But that's a key. You like the broadcaster to kind of know the city of the team that he's calling, right?
No, he knew it too much.
The lay of the land.
He knew too much. He was showing off. But can you guys get him on for me? I want to ask him both these questions. It seemed like he was fooling around with his friends. He continued to use words no one uses on a sports broadcast. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is Mark Jones who's just bored. He's just bored at the end of the season, and he wants to amuse himself because he's better than Miami Wake Forest. Should be doing what are you making faces at, Mike Ryan? Wake Forest
top
game.
10 matchup right there. You got
Right.
better than Miami Wake Forest.
Yeah.
It was one top 10 team and Wake Forest. Nobody wants to watch Wake Forest on the national game. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Have you ever wanted to watch Wake Forest on the national game in football?
The Deeks.
Roy, that still gets you after all these years.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
After all of these years, him just saying the Deeks, Roy, it has no reason within any reasonable realm for you to still find that funny after 20 years.
It will forever.
Something that you mentioned on the Shadow Show as it pertains to Miami's defense, you said, when does that defense ever have a shot? Jeremy and I were looking through these CFP scores. Their bad defense is aplenty. Like always.
Yeah.
You need to score like 45 to have a shot to win this thing.
There has only been one team in the history of the college football playoff era to win a national championship game with fewer than 30 points in that game, and that was Alabama the year they won in overtime against Georgia with Tua Tagovailoa.
How many teams in college football do you trust on both sides of the ball this year?
None.
This is the thing, though. Okay, look, I would have liked Indiana to not have special team calamities this weekend because I would have liked to have seen Ohio State tested by Indiana. That game didn't appear close because they had 2 intergalactic mistakes on special teams, and then they were winning, and then they're down very quickly, and
Right.
Ohio State wasn't even able to be tested. I would have liked to see more Indiana, but where I see flaws everywhere, because Notre Dame, you can make the argument that they look better than anybody, and they lost to Northern Illinois at home.
Who lost to Ball State, which is the worst team I've ever seen in my entire life.
Miami beat Ball State 62 to something, and so, yes, all the teams are flawed, and Oregon went to Wisconsin and barely won.
But they won.
But among the top 12 teams that I'm looking at, I've seen very few weaker total units than Miami's defense.
I think that's a safe criticism, but I also think it's not something that they can't overcome. It might be matchup dependent. Like they ran into opponents for a full month that were just attacking their weaknesses. Everybody left on their schedule potentially is a team that'll stick to their identity. I think that they're going to have to ascend. They're going to have to get some guys back. Damari Brown might help with that, but like we've been saying for the last few weeks, I don't see a dominant team in the nation. And I think if Miami gets a C-plus effort on defense in those crucial games,
that's all it takes.
They've got a shot.
And here is where I would like you to help me out. Because while I am on board with the idea that the SEC is overrated, but I'm also soaked in the bias of many years of watching all the best athletes go to the SEC. I just saw Alabama not do anything against Oklahoma, and it was disorienting to me. I didn't even understand it. Oklahoma, I thought, was a bad team.
They stink.
I thought Oklahoma was bad, and then all of a sudden I see a quarterback who's been running all over the field, Alabama, all of a sudden gets 7 points, and I'm confused by it. But from what I've seen of all of them this season, I really don't know whether it's my bias talking or not here, Stugotz, because my bias should be toward whatever the University of Miami is. I would make them a 7-point underdog against a Georgia.
So I've seen those things, and again, with lines, you never know because the motivation there is to get action. But I've seen like college football playoff insiders has matchup predictive analysis, and they got that within like 4 points. So Georgia's was in a 10-point game against UMass in the third quarter.
Right.
Georgia, like you could if
Georgia
DJ
was
Lagway, they're a hammy injury away from losing at a neutral site to Florida. Like, Georgia is not the same team. I don't think anybody is really all that good. Maybe you can feel the best about Oregon, but they were in a dogfight against Idaho to start the year.
But Georgia's losses came against Mississippi and Alabama. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Texas has some bad losses or a bad loss on their schedule.
Texas doesn't have a good win. I'm telling you,
no, they don't
Miami's
have a good
resume.
win. But Georgia doesn't have a bad loss, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It's just where are we going with the losses? A bad loss is still a loss.
Okay, this is what I will be willing to say then. What I have seen from the University of Miami this season, and saying it's the best quarterback production they've ever had. It's the best offense they've ever had. If they're to win anything, it's because their defense will have to be something that can be overcome by its offense being the best. Their defense being the worst has to be overcome by their offense being the best. But from all of the University of Miami teams that I have seen play for and win the championship, legitimately compete for the championship, if this team were to have done so, it can only be because it's the most diluted, weakest crop of parity that you've ever seen in your life. Because this Miami team doesn't look appreciably better than the others to me at anything but offense.
What you're saying doesn't really compete with me. Most diluted parity.
What I'm saying
parity is not a dilution.
That's not a championship team, is what I'm saying. That defense is so bad that cannot.
Sure it is, because you grew up most of your life. Championship teams looked like that. Look like the teams this nation. You and a lot of your media brethren need to break yourselves of what college football looked like for the last 20 years. This is not the monopoly of the SEC where they play by different rules and all the guys getting drafted essentially go to 4 schools. The talent opened up. Pavia's in Vanderbilt, and he and his boys are going to be a pill for you to swallow. Like, it's a difficult, different day and age, and you're going to have teams that you would maybe assign an A- to instead of an A+ that are going to win these titles.
But what Dan is saying is he has seen, in his opinion, and he's entitled to that, he is saying he has seen Miami teams that didn't win the national championship, and I agree with him, the Testaverde team, that didn't win a national championship, that's better than this team. More talented than this
We're
team.
several years into this whole new world.
Right.
Washington was playing in the national championship game last year. We saw TCU lose 65-7 in a national championship game. We've seen them go to the very heights, all the way to the bottom. You guys got to understand it's a different sport now.
All right.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying is the only way that they can win the championship. If it's such a different sport that defense can be a champion, when in my lifetime, no, it can't.
Second greatest team.
The entire time I've been living, that defense can't be a champion.
And the second greatest football team I've ever seen was Joe Burrow's LSU. I love playing this game. Name a defender.
Agreed.
Name a defender on that team. Stingley was the best defensive player on that team.
That was an overwhelming offense, more overwhelming than this one. That was an overwhelming football team, not playing a bunch of close games against 5-6 and 6-5 teams.
Who isn't playing close games? There's close games about. We just saw how many 4 teams in the top 10 lose to unranked teams. Winning is hard, harder than ever.
I am going to continue to tell you guys and the audience, as someone who has been an advocate for how much fun and how interesting this team is. I did not believe that the Mark Richt team looked in any way like a champion over the course of that season. This unit that the University of Miami has, and I'm talking about their quarterback when I say this unit, but I'm talking about their offense when I say this unit.
The quarterback.
It is better than anything I have seen do offensive production at the University of Miami. But when I see how vulnerable they are to somebody who can just put together a 17-play drive but doesn't need it because they keep doing it in 6 because they cannot stop anybody, you need Cam Ward to never have the game he had against Wake Forest against somebody who's playoff worthy, because they immediately lose the game the way they almost lost at Cal, the way they could have lost against Virginia Tech, and the way they did lose against Georgia Tech.
Defense wins championships, but Mike is saying this is a new sport. We need to watch it differently. The best defense is a good offense.
And what I'm saying is the last time the University of Miami was on the road, they lost to an inferior team playing 2 quarterbacks, one of whom was in the game to throw, and they knew it, one of whom was in the game to run, and they knew it, and they held the ball all game long with a bad offense. And what I'm saying is when you face the good teams, in my experience, that University of Miami team isn't good enough, doesn't look like a champion to me. So you have to tell me that the sport is totally different in order for them to win a championship in it.
That's exactly what we're telling you, because I don't think that you can really point to any team and say they're really solid in all 3 phases and they're not going to get sniped by one of these other teams. And yeah, I would actually look, the defense only gave up 7 points against Wake Forest. They were really good against Wake Forest, who had an abysmal game plan. I think you're right to actually fixate on some of the offensive troubles that we've seen lately, but where I would say is room for encouragement is Cam Ward has shown you that he's not a one-trick pony. In that game, here's where you can be encouraged. His yards per attempt were the fewest, I think, of all season long, because he's just taken what the defense is going to give him, which was why they lost to Georgia Tech, because he felt like he had to score a touchdown every time out. It was also, and this you can chart this, the fewest amount of time that he took to throw. And I know he had an abysmal interception in that game, but he's showing you that he's learning to put his team in a better position. It was a fluky game. He had that fumble by Restrepo that was uncharacteristic. He had a perfect dime of a touchdown pass fall through Jacoby George's arms. I think Miami, if they handle business, you look at their offensive numbers, they get a bye. They're pretty well positioned.
I mean, I'm a little sad at how this is going today, Dan. Like, this Thanksgiving week, I'm not saying that it's time to do our turkeys of the year or what we're thankful for, but like,
turkeys.
It's a great time to be a South Florida sports fan. You have the University of Miami. If you like the University of Miami, they could be playing for a conference championship for what? First time in a long time. They've never won the AACC. They're right in the mix to be in the college football playoffs. You have the Dolphins, who are in the mix, who could be competing for a Super Bowl this year.
Yep.
You have a Heat team that's right in the mix also in
the best hockey team
IST,
in the world.
Just
in the in-season,
a couple good wins.
in-season tournament.
We have a lot to be thankful for.
They
Dan.
are in the mix. I mean, they're not. We can't tell the seeding yet because we're still in the play-in rounds of the group stages of the IST. But they could win very well, make it advance in the IST, win an IST.
There's
a lot to be. There's a lot to be thankful for right now. And FIU is kind of imploding, but we maybe got rid of him. Mike McIntyre, because that whole situation was crazy last week, but we don't need to get into that.
Who's that guy? Why is he back?
Coach
again?
Mack?
I like.
We don't need to get into.
We're
it.
not getting into that. I'm
You know
just
what?
saying there's such a dawn of a new day may be coming down at the Cage over
Fine.
there.
You want to be positive,
Pitbull
guy?
Stadium is here. I mean,
Okay,
this has been a
don't
great
wanna talk about
sporting
that.
season,
Fine.
a
Yeah,
great
you mentioned
time
that.
to be thankful for. What are you
Okay.
thankful
You
for?
sound very holiday buoyant there, and you sound like you're
Ebullient,
trying
some
to
say.
uplift the show. So
Is that the right word?
He saved this for you. I mean,
Ebullient is the right word, and I don't
Mark Jones
generally
taught me that.
associate you with the effervescence of opening a champagne bottle.
Effervescence
especially
was a
not
good band. Remember them?
on Monday mornings when you're more prone to interrupt me than any of the other days because you come in all heated from a football weekend and you've got a lot of opinions and you've let it fly on God Bless Football. But if you want me to be positive voice guy, I will try. I will attempt to be. Are you ready? Okay.
Wow.
Instead of blaming, I don't know what you guys thought the interesting results were yesterday. Whether it's the Cowboys somehow doing that at Washington and now putting in peril what looked like it was going to be an 8-2 start to Washington season.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're floundering, and the Eagles and Saquon Barkley look like they're right at the top of the entire conference, and the only thing that could fist fight the Detroit Lions offensive line, offensive line to offensive line, Philadelphia against Detroit healthy. I think we'd all like to watch that. But when you looked at the Cowboys win and Tennessee wins, and we're like, what is that? What is that? Will Levis has a pick six and they win. I thought Will Levis and the pick six was supposed to result in Will Levis. That's how he loses every time.
Yep.
They're going to win on the road at Houston. But if you want me to be positive, here it is. The Detroit Lions, who go against the Colts and make it look easy, winning on the road look easy, have more ways to beat you than any team in the sport.
ho-hum.
The Chiefs have a terrible point differential for a 10-1 team. The Lions will swamp you. I've never seen a Lion team be a 14-point favorite the way they were against Jacksonville last week. Never seen it. The Lions haven't had this team since 1934. 1934, is that 40 years before the Super Bowl? That's the Great Depression. That's around the Great Depression. That's before World War II.
I think it was towards the end of the Great Depression.
Babe Ruth was playing baseball
Yes.
the last time the Lions were this good.
So you're being positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
A rare positive with a mention of the Great Depression.
Right. The Lions are great. They're overwhelming. They need to lose a game. They are getting hot at the wrong time. I'm telling you right now. They might want to sprinkle in a loss, and Dan Campbell needs to tell his players, if you're going to get hurt, get hurt this week.
What are you doing? Why you already did this take on God Bless
I did.
Football?
Yeah,
Why?
twice.
Just
why-
knocked down two back to
But
back.
Billy set me up. He
It's
told me
so
to give you the
di- it's
fastball.
so-
I did.
It's so disrespectful.
The catcher call for the
No,
number one.
no,
I mean,
no,
he gave me number
listen,
one.
It's so disrespectful.
One finger.
Listen to me. What you just did.
He went like this.
You reheated that cold shit you did at God Bless Football. You reheated it, and you did.
Yeah.
And you did. Well, it's cold this morning. I'm wearing a jacket. We're all
It
wearing
is.
jackets. We all broke into our winter. It's all shit this morning is cold, is it not?
Yeah.
The winter's blown in. It's almost 50 degrees.
Right.
You
What happened?
were pointing at me and were disrespectful in my face by just reheating something you already said on God Bless Football. You can't even look at me right now because you're so ashamed because you went into performance of doing something that's already appeared on another podcast.
Just playing the hits, Dano. That's what I'm doing. I'm telling you, you've won 9 straight. You might want to mix in a loss before the playoffs, reset. The team gets grounded.
But what do you
It's
do-
like Mike
now
Tomlin.
you're
He loved that loss.
Now you're recycling the take that you just had seconds ago.
You know what Tomlin loves to do? He loves to reset. He loves a good loss. It grounds
All right.
his team.
You mentioned Mike Tomlin.
I'm in charge. We're not good enough.
This was the best thing that happened in football this weekend. This is Mike Tomlin being asked about Antonio Brown during a press conference.
Antonio Brown tweeted out that he wants to return to the Steelers and he'll play for free. Any thoughts on that?
Walks off.
Can you guys just keep playing that? Just play it a couple of more times so that I can just watch his face. It's the correct way to handle everything there.
Antonio Brown tweeted out that he wants to return to the Steelers and he'll play for free. Any thoughts on that? Antonio Brown tweeted out that he wants to return to the Steelers and he'll play for free. Any thoughts on that? Antonio Brown tweeted out that he wants to return to the Steelers and he'll play for free. Any thoughts on that?
Billy, what do you make of Calais Campbell not being? We are getting the positive, syrupy Thanksgiving stories of Calais Campbell was not traded because Mike McDaniel stepped in.
See? That's the guy right there. He has faith, Dan. He didn't give up on that team. He stepped in. They were about to trade him to the Ravens, and he said, no, we're not out of it yet. You know why? We're in the mix.
It's interesting that he gave that much, Mike McDaniel, there, because he could have just been like, oh, we're moving on. Yeah, there's a lot of deals that almost happened. He gave voice to, yeah, that almost happened, and I threw an adult temper tantrum. Yeah. That's his exact quote, which is pretty cool.
The idea that we have gone from the Dolphins were 2-6 and going to play at the Rams, Stugotz, and if they'd lost that game, the season would have been lost. And then they have 3 games against 3 teams that aren't very good. The Rams are the best of them, but the Raiders aren't any good. And now we are officially in an era where the Patriots are to the Dolphins what the Dolphins are to the Bills. Tua is 7-0 against the Patriots. The Patriots can't do anything against Tua, and Tua can't do anything against the Bills. And in the division, that makes some of the hope of 5-6 flatten when you think of the Bills being 4 games up or whatever they are in the division.
I thought I saw a stat yesterday that Tua is undefeated against the Bills. Or sorry, he's undefeated against the Jets. He's undefeated against the Patriots.
That's true.
Can't beat the Bills. I think he has 1 win against the Bills.
He has 2 games left against the Jets, though. So, I mean, the Dolphins have a real shot to be a wild card team here. They do.
And I view that, and I got to be positive about this, but I view that as a bit of a purgatory when you're that much worse than the team that's top of the division, going to get the bye, and now you got to beat. You understand, like, I understand that, like, what we just did with college football, we could do it with the pros. It's the genius of football. I'm telling you, professional football, this is the genius of it. You're in a playoff game, and tomorrow you have to play the Texans. We got a shot. No matter who you are, we got a shot against the Texans. And so you can talk yourself into, yeah, the Dolphins can go on the road and beat Baltimore and beat Pittsburgh and beat Houston and beat the Chiefs. And then you don't win a playoff game for 20 years. Like, because you're not quite as good as the Bills. You're not as good as the Bills. Hard stop.
But, Dan, one of the reasons I'm saying this team has a chance, they have 2 with the Jets, they have the Cleveland Browns, they have San Francisco who's banged up, and they actually go to Houston and they play Houston. And Houston's a team they're trying to track down in the AFC. And so there is an opportunity. I'm not saying they're going to get it done, and I understand what you're saying. If they get there, what are they going to do? But there is an opportunity to get there. And if I told you that 4 or 5 weeks ago, you would have laughed me out of the room. In fact, you did.
Well, you did. You guys did say this. You said the schedule was going to do this exact show.
What do you consider a success? Because, like, if they make it to the playoffs and they win a game, is that a success? Because, like, they're not compared.
yeah.
They're not at the same level as the Bills in terms of their record, right? But, like, they played the Bills a couple weeks ago pretty tight, and we were even discussing should they have gone to for a 2-point conversion to win that game. So they played the Bills tight. I mean, aside from the Bills
tight, Billy, they played the Bills tight.
Yeah.
In a playoff game with Skylar Thompson.
Well, he was the reason they lost that game.
But they always lose to the Bills. The Bills are better. Look, we're not going to have this discussion.
No, the Bills are better, but what do you consider a success? Super Bowl or bust for the Dolphins? Because they're not there.
The fact that we're still talking about this team 11 games in, I can consider success from 3 games ago. But you do realize last year we were talking, Greg Cody said they're going to win the Super Bowl. And this season of expectations wasn't 5-6, 11 games in. Like this,
but they lost their quarterback.
It was supposed to be a given that they would be at least here, correct? Like not 3 games back in the division, at least here in the mix, 12 games in.
Yeah, if they didn't lose their quarterback for 4 games. Like they lost their quarterback for a significant chunk of the season.
And went 1-3 during that.
Correct, that's why.
But they've got 6 losses. Like they've got 6 losses 12 games in and haven't beaten a good team yet. Like what? Show me. They beat the Rams. You saw what the Eagles just did to the Rams, right? Now I've gone negative again.
Right, not certain the Rams are any good. I mean, no, your point about they haven't beaten a good team yet is totally fair. They haven't.
I'm just picturing what this league would be like if all teams thought the way you want them to think.
But we're the 7th seed. We're not even going to play that playoff
Forgive
game.
me.
The Chiefs wouldn't have played a playoff game last year. We're never going to win the Super Bowl.
Let me say it a different way then. Let me say it a different way.
Okay.
The country does not believe that the Miami Dolphins can beat a good football team.
The country, that is. They don't believe in the Dolphins. I don't believe in them.
Are you including Miami? are you?
I'm saying the country does
Right.
not believe that. Look, this has been the narrative for 2 seasons, Stugotz. It hasn't changed. The country doesn't believe that Tua can win you a road playoff game playing well. That has not changed. It maybe changed in Miami. It has not changed elsewhere. That was the story at the end of last season.
Right.
McDaniel gave voice to that this offseason, and that has been the story the first half of the season. They still have not beaten anybody.
I get it, but I'm guessing the country also didn't think the Giants would win the 2 Super Bowls they won as a wild card with Eli Manning. And they went out and won those Super Bowls. Like, okay, the odds are stacked against them, and no one thinks they can get it done, but that doesn't mean they can't.
It kind of does.
What if they beat
Does
the
it?
Packers?
It kinda
Does that
does.
change anything?
Yeah,
if they
it
beat the
kinda
Packers?
does.
Or then they just beat one good team?
No,
Do it again.
if they
Changes things.
beat the Packers, then halfway
Right.
through or 2/3 of the way through a season in which they lost their quarterback for a month, they will be 500, which isn't where they were supposed to be when we started talking about everyone's all in on the Dolphins
But they weren't
this
supposed to
season.
lose their quarterback. They weren't supposed to lose their quarterback.
Well,
That's what we're forgetting.
you're predicting that they will lose their quarterback Thursday
I am
night.
not. No.
Who said
No. Let's just get ahead of this right now. I am not predicting they will lose their quarterback. I do not want them to lose their quarterback. I am not rooting for anyone to get injured. Okay? If said thing should happen, do not come at me. Billy was right. Billy's happy. None of that. I don't want this to happen. I'm just saying, historically, this is when it does happen. That's all I'm saying. I don't want it to happen. I'm not predicting it. I'm not rooting for it. I'm rooting against it.
You're
Very
clear.
strongly am
Look,
I rooting
Billy,
against this happening.
Billy, I'm sorry to have done this to you, but you are cornered, okay? Because
I am not.
you have put all of the packing peanuts around it that you can.
I'd put packing peanuts in his helmet if I could.
But you predicted earlier
No.
that this is the situation that this always happens in. And we all recoiled. We
No.
recoiled as a show.
No.
Do you know how rare that is for all of
No.
us to recoil as a show?
No.
We did.
That's like saying Jim Cantori is rooting for Category 5s to hit certain spots so he can be right. No, he's just reading a map. That's all I'm doing. I'm just reading a map, and I'm telling you how this has gone historically in the past. Potentially, this is something to look out for. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm rooting for it. I want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. I'm rooting against it. I want to be wrong. Dan, I'm like you. I want to be wrong. I learned from you. I want to be wrong. Let me say scandalous thing and then say, I want to be wrong.
I came in happy today, legitimately happy
Really?
to talk about the Dolphins. Yes, because I'm wrong. Because when they went from 2-6 to 3-6, they did indeed save their season because you were right. You said they would be easy games against the Raiders and Patriots. And I'm like, easy games? They're the easy game on everyone's schedule. And now they are 5-6, and we're doing exactly the show that you predicted a couple of weeks ago
maps.
we would do. I hope on Friday we're not doing the show you previously predicted we're going to be doing on Friday because Tua's hurt again
no
on
such
Thursday
thing.
night.
We won't be. It's a holiday. Also, that Tomlin video, totally fake.
What?
As we celebrate 20 ridiculous years together, I will tell you that I do not believe that Stugotz has any segment that is more popular. Do I have this wrong in 20 years than Weekend Observations? Like, your most popular segment is either that or Wake and Take, right?
I think it was that, Wake and Take, or maybe the restaurant reservations, which I'm actually planning on doing one coming up here soon because it's anniversary time, Dan.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we are going to celebrate Stugotz here in a moment with what is his the most featured bit. And I will say that tomorrow is a giant day in our history. And I don't want to just skip past it because we've been talking about it for a while. This book is a real thing, and Stugotz wants it to be a New York Times bestseller, and we want it to be a New York Times bestseller, and it launches tomorrow. Like, the pre-orders are crazy already. All sorts of gifts to the people who have gotten in early, but this thing is happening. I've seen the book. It exists, and tomorrow it's no longer a broken promise. It's not a lie anymore. This is a very real thing. Stugotz, beginning tomorrow, is going to officially be a published author. Most of the material is borrowed from his author friends.
Not most of it, just about all of it, yeah. I would
Okay.
say 99.5% of it.
Regardless, the book is going to come out tomorrow, and we're
Right.
going to celebrate that tomorrow in a big way.
I am super grateful to Dan Stanzik because if not for him, this book doesn't get done. So I am grateful to him, all the people that contributed to this book, and all the people on social media. I was moved over the weekend to see how many listeners actually purchased the book. So I thank you very, very much. Tomorrow's going to be a very exciting day.
What just happened there?
I don't know. I got caught up in the air. I have weekend observations coming up. There's a lot going on in my head right now. I had a stroke, all that stuff, Dan. So listen, I just want to say 20th year. I was moved over the weekend. It was nice. It was a relaxing weekend. The Jets weren't playing. I watched former Jets perform and excel all over the NFL. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, just to name a few. And I really had some time to reflect on the last 20 years and what this audience means to me. And this audience means everything to me. So thank you.
It is very cool. Billy doesn't seem to believe you at all. He seems to be skeptical back there about
okay.
whether the...
Not at all.
He always is. Yeah.
Oh, well,
That's not true.
before we get to weekend observations, I will say I don't know that I've had a bigger surprise all year anywhere in my life than Stugotz showing up for that Flanagan's thing. He
Felt the same about you.
He does genuinely appreciate. You know, the expectations for us are different. I arrive after the first quarter. Dan, where were you? You're late. Stugotz arrives at all. Giant celebration throughout the parking lot. The expectations are different. You figured it out, buddy. Like
Yes.
you have
Set 'em low, Dano.
You have the game played perfectly because tell me, I was not the only one. You guys have had give me a bigger surprise that you guys have had. Mike's experience with the coffee table might be one.
No surprises match that.
The movie, The Coffee
I'll
Table,
tell
I
you
should
something.
say.
If Anthony Jeselnik tells you, I found this movie to be a laugh riot and I smiled the entire way, that should be a pretty big red flag.
Right. Dan, but I've been telling you because Billy and I have been making the tour around the United States. We've gone to Kansas City. We've gone to Chicago, Arizona. I went to Detroit-ish. And I am telling you, the outpouring from the fans during our 20th year is something you need to experience, and I'm glad you had the chance to do so last week. That's why I went. I wanted to talk to our fans. Our fans have been great to us and loyal to us for 20 years.
So tomorrow we're going to ask for more of that loyalty as Stugotz tries to butter you up. Before we get to weekend observations, would anyone have had any objection? Because I would have done this. I'm not saying that I'm better than Jerry Jones about anything when it comes to how it is you get publicity for your vehicle. But yesterday, as McLaurin is running down the field when he's got 11 Cowboys in coverage and they've got no timeouts, if I were Jerry Jones, I would have run on the field and fired McCarthy before McLaurin got into the end zone. I would have made sure that I announced to the press before he ran those last 50 yards, McCarthy is fired right now. I don't care that they won the game. During the return, You cannot have that happen at the end of a football game when the other team has no timeouts and they have to go 80 yards. That does not ever happen in professional football.
When McLaurin turns around, there should be 19 Cowboy defenders there ready to greet him.
They had 11 guys in coverage. I don't understand how he ran untouched for 80 yards.
That's a 0-0 score first quarter.
It needs to be the last play of your career. That's it. You can't work for me anymore. It can't be that what the Washington Commanders did is their best player threw it to their second best player and he ran 80 yards untouched. No, fired, leave. Don't pick up your things. I'll throw them on the front yard. Get out of here, never to work again. I'd prefer to never see you again.
Why are you
I know our families are friends. I know we all love each other. You leave the facility, and I never want to see you again.
But you're the owner, and you're going to his house, and you're taking his clothes, and you're throwing them on the front
No,
yard.
I threw all his coaching things out of his office. But yes, if he had done that, I would have not convicted Jerry Jones for personally doing that as well. You can't. It's a big surprise that player threw it to that player.
I would have fired him for winning. I mean, it's a bad win.
Nothing can prepare you for the turn this movie takes. Nothing. It needs a trigger warning just to talk about the synopsis.
So you saw a movie recommended. Look, Mike, you have a lot of things going on, and you do not put things at the front of the list for your consumption. You just watched The Coffee Table, the movie, because Anthony Jeselnik thought it was a laugh riot?
It was on my list. I saw like all these aggregated top 10 lists, top 10 horror suspense movies of the last few years, and The Coffee Table is always talked about, but I always found it curious the way that people spoke about it because they're like, we can't tell you what happens in this movie. And I understand it, even though it's very much the central plot line. People don't want to talk about the central plot line in the movie, and I understand because it's unlike anything you've ever seen in a movie. I had to, for the first time in my life, stop a movie, not because I was tired, but because I needed to give myself a break from the tension that was building in this film. It's an unbelievable film, but you should look into it if you've had certain things happen in your life and see if you even want to give this thing there's a pretty big spoiler if you Google what this movie is about. If you're in, trust me, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
All right, we'll continue to talk around this, but there's only one time in my life that this has ever happened to me during a movie where I had to turn it off, and I'm like, and it's not Midsommar or one of those. There are plenty of disgusting movies I have seen. It was Ryan Reynolds spent the entire thing buried in a coffin alive trying to get out, and it became so claustrophobic to me that I had to turn it off. I couldn't continue to watch what I was watching. You're saying this thing has such disturbing material. It's not claustrophobia. Such disturbing material that you, who takes an Anthony Jeselnik recommendation when he's dark comedy and he's telling you this is a laugh riot and he's telling you that this is going to be super strange, you immediately go listen to it and couldn't watch it. Had to stop.
I watched 3 movies yesterday. Well, 2.5. I watched Gladiator 2. I watched Wicked. And to end my night, I started watching The Coffee Table. And I had to stop watching The Coffee Table because of what it was making me feel. It's a great movie. It's a great premise for a movie. It's also highly disturbing and could be triggering for those in our audience. If you want, I can tell you in your ear what this movie is about. And you will, I think, react.
Well, I can't believe that none of us have heard of it, and I can't believe that all of us are staring at you, and there isn't even a curiosity that I can see among the group of, like, tell me more about what this premise is, because you've got me curious now that you don't even feel comfortable talking about it because you're not squeamish. So, like, you go in, what was that Saltburn movie that you were talking about?
Movie.
That movie was great.
Okay, but that's got some plot twists in it.
That's got discomfort. This is uncomfortable. This is not overly gory. It's what you don't see that really stays with you. It's about the situation that this couple finds itself in. And the reason why you haven't heard of it is because it's a Spanish language film. This is one that's getting around by word of mouth, and everybody pretty much has the same reaction to the central plot line of this film, which is really rough, really rough.
So what are you proposing? Saying it into our ears and we decide from there?
I'll tell you in your ear, and you tell me if you have any interest.
Don't spoil it, though.
Yeah, come over here. I'll whisper it. I'll go over there.
Okay. Yeah, come here.
All right. In the interim, and we will get to the weekend observations in
Love
a
a
moment.
game of telephone.
Billy, are you interested at all in this movie?
No.
Because he's taking the recommendation. Anthony Jeselnik, it's been a very popular South Beach session. People appreciate his brand of comedy, and he's got a following that is unusually loyal, and he's one of the legends in the game. And so the South Beach session has been very popular. Mike Ryan watched it, which he never does, at least in part because he loves Jeselnik so much. And the people who follow Jeselnik, he's got a giant cult following of loyalists that's uncommon for comedy because they always find him telling the truth away from comedy.
I've been meaning to ask you, and it's probably better to ask you off air, but we're here now. When you interviewed David Alan Grier, how did you not laugh? Because he was dressed like a train conductor.
You thought I should have just laughed?
I walked by a TV and I was like, "What is going on right now?" Because like it wasn't just like the overalls; there was like a kerchief around his neck as well, right? Like what was going on there?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You weren't curious?
I did not. Well, what would you have asked?
You ask, how was the train ride over here? Something like that. Like what do you ask? I was taken aback.
I asked him an hour's worth of questions about an assortment of
none of
different
which
things,
related
but
to trains.
none of them was about trains. None of them was about kerchiefs.
I'm just watching Mike tell Stugotz this movie, and Stugotz is like shaking his head like I don't
want to see this.
Yeah, Stugotz.
I want nothing to do with this movie.
I'm watching Stugotz get that information was hilarious.
Nope.
Dan. Do you know what it is, Dan?
No, I do not.
All right,
you don't
Stugotz,
want to
now
see it.
you tell Dan in his ear.
Can I ask a question? I know nothing about it. Is it kid related?
Ooh, hot cold game. I love this.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to see it related, okay?
If it's bad stuff with a kid, I'm out.
No one wants to see this. Nobody. In fact, Mike probably regrets watching it in the first place.
Well, he hasn't watched all of it. He had to turn it off.
Why would you?
I'm going to finish it today.
No, you won't.
None of you have seen Buried with Ryan Reynolds. None of you
Buried
know
Alive.
what
Yeah.
I don't think that people go to movies to feel bad. I would say I like to go to movies to just feel, or like to watch movies to just feel. But I don't think that most people want to feel bad watching a movie.
I think when the plot gets going in this film, you would rather actually be buried alive than vicariously live through this situation that this couple.
All right, put the train conductor on the screen right now. There it is, Billy. Now look at it. Are you happy, Billy? Are you happy? There you go.
I'm just saying it never came up.
It never came up. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything about his overalls or his kerchief. I did.
Was he promoting his new doctor show? Because like he should have gotten Scrubs.
He was promoting his new doctor show. He did not come in Scrubs. That's what he came in.
That would have made more sense. A lab coat, anything.
Let's do Stugotz's weekend observations.
Don't see the movie, Dan.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
I got to be honest. I'm not certain I could do them. I'm rattled.
Not the greatest judgment by us to rattle Stugotz right before his featured segment. Not great producing.
I mean, what Mike whispered in my ear, that should never be whispered in anyone's ear. I mean,
not great producing.
Wow.
I needed somebody. Let me ask you a question, Chris Cody, executive producer. Should we table this for a second so that Stugotz could gather himself? These take work.
Wow.
This takes an effort. He's performing. It's the most expectations he has with the segment. Do we need to stand down for a second and continue the show because we have left him in disarray?
I say we push through.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. Man. Whew. Tough day. Dan, the last decade or so has been difficult on the book industry. Really, if I'm being honest, and I never am, the last decade or so has been tough on the written word in general. But Dan, this week, there is hope. Because, Dan, if I could do it, anyone could do it. My name is on the cover of a book that was written by Dan Stanzik and published by Random House. And, man, are they selling like crazy. And, Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it. For the first time ever here on Weekend Observations, books are back.
Yes.
StugottsBook.com.
It has happened. It is going to happen some more in 24 hours.
Just don't put the book on a coffee table. I never want to hear about a coffee table again. Ever.
Now I'm more curious. Now I want to watch it.
Don't be.
I want to watch it more than I wanted to watch it when Jeselnik recommended it.
Huh. I love a good helmet sticker.
Put it on the poll, Juju at Le Batard Show. Do you love a good helmet sticker?
Dan, you know what the you know what the C in SEC stands for?
I do not.
I was thinking coffee table, but
That's all you're thinking now.
Chaos, yes.
It is a bit of chaos.
It stands for chaos.
It is.
Yes.
There is going to be a 7-loss SEC team in the playoffs.
Yep. Who does Harvard and Yale think they are calling their game the game? I mean, it's not the game. It's the game that no one cares about. The audacity.
You're saying that Harvard and Yale might be arrogant? No. That they would think their game is the only game?
I forgot who I was
No.
talking about. Rattle coffee table.
No. Pablo does plenty of annoying things, telling people how often he went to an Ivy League school is high among them.
Night game in Tempe. Tricky. Dan, you know what the T in Tempe stands for?
Tricky.
Good guess, but no. I understand why you would guess that, but it stands for tough place to play. When they're good.
You really set a trap for me, and I went right into it.
Yep. Reminder, the New York Giants picked Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley. Bo Nix tried to tell you, Dan. You starting to believe?
Did you try to tell us?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
You believing?
What are they, 7-5?
Yep. Wild card team.
I will tell you something that came over me yesterday that I was surprised by. Watching the end of that game. Oh, I trust Bo Nix more than I do Minshew.
Oh, yeah.
Minshew's a veteran, and I trust a rookie more than I trust. I was surprised by that. I was surprised it swept over me during Raiders-Broncos.
You can't spell miss the playoffs without the MISS in Mississippi.
That's a bad loss.
It's a terrible loss. Don't look now, but the Florida Gators may have found themselves a quarterback.
Mike Ryan, look at Mike Ryan got his back up when I said I was a bad loss. It's the best win on Miami's entire schedule is that Florida win. It keeps getting better. It keeps getting better over the last month.
Not so easy to go in as a ranked team into the swamp, huh? Okay. Well, but it happened in September. It doesn't count.
Right. Dan Stanzik, using my idea, my takes, my name, and my relationships, which are really Dan's relationships, to write a book. Stanzik, I'm proud of you. And the Stugotz is strong in you. StugottsBook.com.
It's happening, people. It's happening.
Indiana played their way out of the playoffs, and the SEC played them back in. It's crazy what happened.
That is what happened.
Yes. They started the day in, then they were out, and then they were back in. What a day for Indiana.
Are you guys with me at all on the fact that I would have liked to have seen those two special teams touchdowns? I'd like to have seen a different game from Indiana. I think people are going to dismiss them too easily.
Dan, you can't spell in the playoffs without the IN in Indiana. Are we sure C.J. Stroud is good?
He's getting sacked a lot, Stugotz.
Yeah, he's throwing a lot of bad interceptions,
but
too.
he's getting sacked a lot. I think those two things go together.
I mean, maybe. He's got Nico back.
Maybe. I think those things go together. I think your game gets a lot worse. He wasn't hit all that much the first season. It was weird.
Right. It might be time to stop asking if something's off in Kansas City and start asking if something is brewing in Carolina.
No. No. Come on.
I got a feeling they're turning things around. How about that?
You got a Thielen?
Yeah. See what I did there? Panthers, best loss by any team this season and maybe ever.
That actually gets them in the CFP.
Bryce Young has been upgraded from a pulse to a heartbeat.
What?
Bryce Young might be good, man.
Oh, come on.
That's Dan, I'm telling you what happened yesterday is your court.
on,
It's the
man.
perfect scenario for Carolina yesterday. You hung with Kansas City. You didn't win the game. You don't want to win the game. Bryce Young left too much time for Patrick Mahomes, but that's okay because you didn't want to win the game. And maybe you have a quarterback. That's a productive day for Carolina.
What's above a heartbeat in this situation?
I don't know.
That's a good question, Roy. I don't know why you laughed so much, but
I've never heard that before.
It's an asinine thing to say. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Did Bryce Young go from pulse to heartbeat?
Mm-hmm. I feel better about my bet.
If you have a pulse, don't you have a heartbeat?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like this one? Yeah. What happened there?
If you have a pulse, you have a heartbeat.
Correct.
If you have a
but-
heartbeat, you have a pulse.
Yeah, but, I mean, pulses can be tricky and deceiving. They can be. It depends on the pulse.
I don't think you actually upgraded anything there. I think Bryce Young is still in the same state that he was in before.
I think you're right. Actually.
So are the Panthers. Everything is the same as it
I'm
was
rattled.
before.
Coffee table.
Nothing has changed just because they played Kansas City close, as everyone has.
You haven't heard about the coffee table yet, all right? I mean, cut me some slack.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. I feel better about my bet if my team gets the ball at halftime. If my team gets the ball to start the game, it might as well be a loss. Rip up the tickets.
You're afraid of the first possession
Hate
of the
it.
second half?
I wish I could
totally right.
I wish I could make bets after the coin toss.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju at Le Batard Show. Do you wish you could make bets after the coin toss?
Technically, you can, but you got to be quick.
Mm-hmm. Deion Sanders said, "We lost because we didn't play Colorado football." No, Deion. You lost because you played Colorado football. Finally, someone talking about Deion Sanders. All it took was a loss.
Mike, did you pick Kansas?
Town on alert.
Oh, yeah. Third straight double unit. Put the town on alert. Rock chalk. Man, I'm locked into that team.
Mike was telling you all week. He was warning. He was shouting it from the mountains.
Yep.
Look, Kansas has been playing better lately.
Mm-hmm.
Can't just go on the road and win college football games anymore.
Yep.
Did you see that Kansas had a punter that was celebrating senior day? He's from Australia. His parents flew 21 hours to watch him, and they didn't punt.
Wow. That's unfortunate. Saying a manager got sacked is so much better than saying a coach got fired. It is.
It is. You know
They
what?
sacked him.
What is that, though? How does that originate? Is it someone placing a sack over
It
somebody?
originates, Mr. Walken, from I've heard it in the UK. It's always like around
It
soccer.
originates.
And the anytime someone's losing a bad game, you'll hear the crowd sing "Sacked in the morning."
The thing
You're
I'm
getting
asking you,
sacked
does
in
it
the
mean
morning."
taking someone out in a sack? Is that what it means?
I would assume that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it means Max Crosby is getting Jose Mourinho out.
Like you move things in a sack. You clean out an office. Is that okay? I'm sorry to ask so many questions.
That's how it originates.
In honor of the top Jewish quarterback names, the top 5 basketball player names, if they were Jewish.
Oh wow. Okay.
OLI, Victor Wembanyamaka.
Oh, that's so good.
Number 5, Corey Hebrewer. Number 4, LeBronica James. Number 3, Joe Mazzulla. Number 2, Shabbat Napier.
Bravo.
And number 1, Chris Bashashana.
I saw an Orthodox Jew plays for Texas A&M.
What?
Yeah, I think he's believed to be the first in college football history. He can only actually play. There was only one game he could actually suit up for and play in as a walk-on.
Yes,
it happened
because
2 weeks ago.
if you're Orthodox, you shut off you can't do anything the entire weekend, essentially.
Sam Sauls.
Interesting. Do it against Alabama used to mean something. Dallas Cowboys, bad win. I figured it out. The Alabama thing. It used to mean something. Doing it against Nick Saban. Now you're doing it against Kalen DeBoer. It's a big difference. Big one.
I mean, Oklahoma's bad, correct?
Yeah.
A bad football team. Not a mediocre football team. Oklahoma's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just their second conference win?
And they blow out Alabama. They win by 17 points.
Yeah.
Alabama can't do anything offensively.
Every single team that someone would have ventured to say is the best team in the SEC outside of Georgia lost in embarrassing fashion.
Every loss in the SEC should count as a quality loss. No?
That was a bad one against Oklahoma, dude.
I know. You guys were talking about Kansas. If there was a national championship for the team who plays the best spoiler this year, it would go to Kansas. Fair. Maybe Florida. But Kansas, they live to play spoiler. Florida, they don't want to play spoiler. They want to be spoiled.
There was talk of Billy Napier being coach of the year this weekend.
Oh, knock it off.
He should be.
It came. I think Kirk Herbstreit said it.
He held the team together. I mean, they didn't quit on him.
So, wait a minute. We were going from talking about his buyout 4 games in. Oh, come on. Okay, we're going to fast forward all of the employment status that way, that you go from what's the buyout 4 games in to coach of the year 5 games later?
Interesting. Billy Napier should win coach of the year. People are talking about it.
LSU, Ole Miss, I mean, they're clicking at the right time.
Ole Miss the playoffs.
You are sunshine today, Billy. You are a voice.
I'm trying, man.
You're a voice of positivity today.
If we got rid of kickers, would anyone be that upset?
Got rid of them like in a purge?
Well, no, they could still live. I mean,
okay. Yes. Just eliminate them.
Just the
from
position.
football.
Yeah, why are you killing all the kickers?
I'm not
What's
right. I didn't
He
kill
said-
anyone.
he said eliminate.
I said get
He
rid
said-
of them
he
from the
said-
sport.
Okay,
From the
he
sport.
said get rid. He didn't say from the
What?
sport. He said get rid of them, like dispose
Sack
of them.
You can take Arizona State out of the Pac-12, but you can't take the Pac-12 out of Arizona State. Mo Salah, if I looked like that, I'd also take my shirt off when I scored a goal. Holy cow. Mo Salah. Whew. Jackson Dart was going to end that game with an interception and would not be denied.
It looked like that.
Yeah. USC, UCLA, classic Big Ten matchup. College football is weird.
I
man.
do love how screwed it up it is. It's so good. It is so good that any weekend you're watching and you're just like, yeah, everybody can lose.
Yeah.
Like it's not just everybody can lose.
Crazy. I can't resist a good snot rocket on a golf course. I mean, golf courses are like heaven for snot rockets, right?
There's very few things that get you right more than a snot rocket. Like, it's immediate.
Put it on
It's like
the
a Bloody
poll
Mary.
At Le Batard Show, are golf courses heaven for a snot rocket?
Top 5 things I can't resist. Number 5, the Dolphins as heavy favorites at home against a bad team. Can't do it. Number 4, a goof parlay.
So wait, the Dolphins are what the Chiefs used to be, where you still believe in their offense enough that you will never trust getting points against them.
Yeah, against the bad team, though. Right.
Against the bad ones.
Yeah. Your hope is they do what they did yesterday.
What is the goof parlay? You've told us before.
It's just a wacky parlay, a couple of different teams and over catches, something just, like a $10 parlay that wins you like $10,000. That's never going to come in.
If I'm loading up my betting slate for the day and I have $10 left on my account, that $10 is going to be in a parlay that would pay me out approximately $34,000.
Today's going to be my day.
So you got to go 16-0?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Number 3, ripping James Franklin. Number 2,
What's happened there? That's over the last 12 months. Did you lost Harbaugh because Harbaugh won a championship and you just needed to go and find somebody? Like what? You turned on James Franklin from one day to the next, and you've been crushing him for 12 months.
Yeah, what happened was Harbaugh won a national championship and then he left.
So you needed to pivot. Okay, you didn't want to go after Day.
No, I mean.
He wins too much.
I'm nervous for Day, though. Right now, I am. I'm nervous for Saturday already for Ryan Day because they play Michigan in the game. That's the real game. So I'm nervous for Ryan Day. But no, James Franklin's my guy. It's him or Lincoln Riley. Blah, blah, blah. Number 2, a good NBA 2-team teaser. Can't resist it. And number 1, a good book. StugottsBook.com. Here come the Flames. They're good. Keep an eye on them. If the committee said they weren't putting Georgia in the playoff based solely on the fact that they were trailing 7-0 to UMass, I'd be okay with it. The Minutemen. Rick Pitino. Congratulations to Mike Norvell for not having to add another L to his last name. 11 seasons. And still no playoff appearances for Jackson Dart. I think it's just me. I feel like the guy's been around forever.
I did love during the UM game Mark Jones saying his 9th year of eligibility.
That's
just
so
hearing that
so
phrase
good.
is so good.
Weird time. I love a golf ball with a cool logo on it. Yeah. Kids riding around on one of those electric bikes. Got news for you. You're not riding a bike. Electric bikes. Do me a favor. Enough. Kids riding around on those electric bikes. Do yourselves a favor. Go exercise. Thanks. I mean, Jesus, what are we teaching these kids? Electric bikes. Ride a bike. Some spokes and ride a bike.
It's a good point.
Thank you.
Stugotz is dead
Get
on.
a Schwinn. I mean,
Stugotz is dead on this.
Mongoose.
There must be so many more hospital visits now because people are riding around on these motorcycle bikes thinking that they're exercising.
I mean, do yourself a favor. Go to the bike store, buy a Huffy, okay, and then ride the bike. How about that? Electric bikes.
A Huffy. How's it? Roy, can you look up for me how Huffy's doing these days? Because
great year last year.
He just summoned a brand from the 1980s that I'm not sure is still around. I haven't heard Huffy in a long time.
Roy, they had their best year sales year ever last year. Check it out, bikes.com. I was just there. I was there over the weekend because I was thinking about electric bikes and how they're doing in sales. They're not doing that great. But Huffy had a year last year. But I think they make electric bikes. That's the thing.
I think you're just lying.
I totally
you just
am.
keep
I didn't do any of
lying.
this.
Roy, find Huffy for me and tell me how they're doing.
Huffy
please.
does make electric bikes now.
Yeah, that's not good. What are we teaching these kids? Ride a bike. CJ Stroud, the Dan Orlovsky is strong in you. Dan, you know what the S in CJ Stroud stands for?
Safety.
Sophomore slump. I know it sounds crazy, but the Titans somehow overcame their own quarterback to beat the Texans.
No, that's exactly what happened. It doesn't sound crazy. That's the Will Levis experience, baby.
Players on Notre Dame do it at the Army. Boston College, the rare college football program whose floor will always be 6 wins, and their ceiling will always be 7 wins. No team covers a spread in the fourth quarter quite like Miami. Dan, you know what Ohio State did on Saturday?
Took care of business.
No, they did, but they also reminded everyone that they were Ohio State and that Indiana was still Indiana.
That is what they did.
Mm-hmm. That was the best witching hour of all time. Sorry, Dano.
No, that's okay. That's exactly what they did, though. You nailed that one. That's exactly what happened.
Wow. We agree on an observation. How about that witching hour? Best one of all time.
I'm gonna,
the games didn't mean anything, but it was awesome.
I'm going to say it again, all right? For those of you who did not hear me earlier. Me, Chris, and Stugotz are like, no reason to watch these games. And then there's Mahomes for 33 yards running again to save their 10-1 season. The Bears tie it on an onside kick. The Titans have just beaten the Texans. We didn't see that coming. And the Cowboys and Commanders are scoring 4 touchdowns in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Including that that turbine spin move from a video game, which is
wow.
who's crazy enough that you're a sociopath. To turn your back to charging people on a kickoff.
Daniel Jones, San Francisco 49ers, collision course. Sidney Crosby scored his 600th career goal. Sid the Kid. Sorry, Roy.
He got in a fight
It
over
was
the
worth
weekend,
noting,
too.
Roy. I mean,
Terrible.
Sid got in a fight. He dropped the gloves.
yeah.
It wasn't great, but he dropped the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
He used to get in one fight a year. Now it's like one fight every 2 seasons.
Right. Respect, though? I mean,
No.
The number one recruit in the country reportedly got $12 million to commit to Michigan. Hell happened to college football. Speaking of hell, or Bryles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Was Tom Brady involved with that recruitment at Michigan? I saw some reports.
A lot of people were apparently involved in that. It's a bold strategy. That's a lot of money for a high school kid, yeah.
But that's where this is going to keep going if you make it no salary cap, free market. Hey, do you want to get good at college football? That was fun when we won the championship and we had Connor Stallions and Jim Harbaugh and everything else.
Yeah.
$12 million gets us back into that game? Okay, that's worth it.
But I think Mike is right. That is a bold strategy. I'd rather see the kid play first, like what the Canes did with Cam Ward. I'd rather know he's going to be good than guess if he's going to be
I
good.
think you could look at what Tennessee did in that they paid their quarterback a lot of money with the hope that he would be there for 4 years. And you realize that if Tennessee maybe changed their approach and got like a Dylan Gabriel or a Cam Ward, Tennessee's probably national championship good.
If I may, just real quick, because I love this part of it, and I understand that we're galloping on, like, that the sport keeps growing, and there are rules, but we're kind of throwing everything we used to do out and doing it differently now. You do understand that if boosters think they can actually buy themselves into this game, there's no keeping this part of it down. Like, this is anybody who wants to get in the game, who wants a quarterback. Portnoy and Tom Brady want Michigan to feel like they did 2 years ago. They can throw $12 million at that. It doesn't cost them. Like, it doesn't cost those people anything.
Well, two things will change it. Number one, people will realize that's a lot of money for an 18-year-old, and it gets in the way of building out a team, and it's probably not the best way to spend money. I would prefer keeping my powder dry for the portal and taking something a little bit more proven, but that'll work itself out. Number two is the NCAA is going to get its way. They are going to get safe harbor status. And so the election kind of almost cemented that. a lot of big, important football games that people want to be at coming up here on the schedule. And sometimes those tickets are sold out. So where do you turn? Well, you turn to Game Time.
Yeah.
The best secondary ticket marketplace out there. You get premium panoramic seat view, so you know exactly what you're getting into. And no surprises at checkout if you click the all-in pricing option. And second to none customer service. Game Time's ticket coverage has you. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code DAN, that is DAN, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. I guarantee you will love this app. What time is it?
It's game time, Mike.
I didn't
was
think
answering
your
his question.
timing was great
Weird.
there.
Very
It made
abrupt.
me uncomfortable.
Usually says
the way
Chris,
that, the way that
For the
you
last
said
week
that.
or so, I've gone like game time. I was like, how
thought-
can I change this up? I'm trying to keep it fresh in this. Like me and
Game
Mike,
time, Mike.
Me and Mike are having ad sex.
But
Okay, I'm trying to keep it
no,
fresh.
but it sounded like someone had prodded you with a hot poker in the nether regions. Like it was weird the way that you said that. You weren't enthused about Game
Look,
Time.
if I would have just done game time, you guys would have just
No, that would have been
kept it,
good.
like,
I thought
got
that's
you
what we
guys.
were
He was
doing.
plenty enthused about the sponsor.
thought
How
that's
can you
what
not
we were
be?
doing.
Because it's the best out there. Also, he might just be a little rattled because I told him about the coffee table.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Holy cow!
Wow.
Video, please find my father in the other room. I saw him rummaging around there somewhere. Did he leave? We missed. He escaped. He left out a side door. Okay, thanks. I'm glad everybody here does what I tell them to do.
He's in the bathroom. I'm being told.
He's in the bathroom. Last time I
Follow
saw
him
him out
there.
there, his hand was in that plate of bacon. I mean,
I saw him rummaging around, and I wanted to catch him in his natural environment. He loves coming around and just eating Fig Newtons. So we will try and locate my father and see if we bring you that video shortly. We will also have some off-roading for you. Where did Lucy go this weekend?
the game, Harvard, Yale. The game.
Yeah, was it a more staid environment? Was it a more tepid tailgating environment than the average SEC school, or because
She told us that the kids were reluctant to go on camera. They didn't want, they're not looking for clicks.
Because they're smart.
Yeah, future leaders of America.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
So wait a
Bigger
minute.
fish to fry. I guess.
So wait, do we like what she? Has anyone seen what she was making this weekend? Not just what we're going to play in moments, but what she was making this weekend. Did it seem a stuffier environment that she was walking into because it was Harvard, Yale? Yes.
I mean, it has to, right?
I haven't seen it yet, Dan. I can't.
Okay.
I wish I could answer.
Well, I
it.
don't know if she was active on social media this weekend. I tried to check out a little bit on social media. It's blissful. It's lovely. It really is. Everyone should try it.
Go
It
for a
is
walk.
A
It's
great,
amazing.
a great untreated
the best.
international addiction that we don't nearly talk about enough in the addiction category.
I only got to see one picture. Lucy got to hang out with Handsome Dan, the Yale Bulldog.
Wow.
Nice.
He is handsome.
Let's get in a moment to that sound. But before we do that, Stugotz, I want to get your thoughts on something here. Did you see how everything ended in New York with the Giants on Friday? And Daniel Jones and the Daniel Jones era, for whatever it is. The 4 or 5 years that the Giants spent arguing about whether he was the quarterback franchise of the future before they cut bait.
I think the Giants always knew. The problem was they went to Minnesota, won a playoff game. Daniel Jones played well in that playoff game, and they were kind of forced to sign him to a longer-term deal.
Well, if they always knew, you don't have to do that, and they didn't know,
guess.
and so they wasted a lot of time on the Daniel Jones era. But Daniel Jones was really classy about the whole thing, and then when I'm leaving on Friday, Mike, because we obsess over our quarterbacks, as I'm saying goodbye for the weekend, Mike, is Daniel Jones waived. And now he's available to a variety of teams that maybe he could resurrect it with. But he was very kind in the way that he read a letter and said goodbye and handled it all, I think, with grace. And so Daniel Jones had a career where he made a lot of money and had very little success and somehow leaves New York kind of unscathed. And so L. Duncan was making fun of, I guess, the way that he read his goodbye to the fans at a press conference. And let's hear that sound.
Normally reserved taking the L for Fridays, but Giants quarterback Daniel Jones just did something so inexplicable that we made an exception. After being benched this week, Jones took to the podium to say goodbye to the franchise and fans, but with like 7 games left in the season.
All right, wrote something down just to make sure I say it the right way.
I'm sorry, you have to write this down? Then you go to Duke?
The opportunity to play for the New York Giants was truly a dream come true, and I'm extremely grateful to the Mara and Tisch families for the chance to play here. The Giants are truly a first-class organization, and I have nothing but genuine respect and appreciation for the people who have built it and who helped carry on that tradition. Thank you to all my teammates, coaches, and staff that have done so much for me these past 6 years. Of course, this season has been disappointing for all. I'm excited for the next opportunity and know that there's a lot of good football in front of me, and I'm excited about that. To all the fans, I have deep respect and appreciation for your passion and love for the Giants. The fans are a huge part of what makes playing for the Giants so special. Thank you.
You guys think he had this saved in his notes since like 2020? In all seriousness, DJ, I could have saved you like 90 seconds. A rewrite. Sorry you paid me $108 million for one playoff win, and I look forward to reviving my career as Brock Purdy's backup. The end.
Not a bad landing spot.
God damn.
So that was the response of Rich Gannon as well on SiriusXM, and I'm curious what Stugotz thinks of everything that I'm putting in front of you here, because Rich Gannon does a show with a gentleman I think named Bruce Murray on SiriusXM.
Ah, Murr.
And they were really precious about what L had done to Daniel Jones there. They got upset by this. So watch Bruce Murray ask this question of Rich Gannon, former MVP of the league, and then I want to get your thoughts on this back and forth.
You know, we all fall into the trap of going after the lowest hanging fruit. But I take issue with a female on ESPN who goes by the name of L. Duncan. And I went to her Twitter feed to see if, since this controversy has erupted, if she provided any kind of apology, which she hasn't. You can check her out on Twitter at L. Duncan ESPN.
Why bother?
When she went yesterday, and after Daniel Jones produced a heartfelt news conference saying goodbye to the New York Giants, and as you said, Rich, was accountable for the failures that he was part of as he moves on to the next stage of his career, and she decided to mock that. Not just the performance, by the way, on Sunday, but the individual himself, to the point where he said, I wrote these words down because I wanted to make sure I shared them properly. You're emotional. And she said, oh, I thought you went to Duke. You had to write them down? And then she went on to say, I could have simplified it for you. I stole your money or something. I won one playoff game. This is from an organization, by the way, who's firing people left and right. And I wonder how she would take kindly if we made fun of her colleagues that are getting fired right now. I wonder how she would take it if she got fired.
So that was the question that he sent Rich Gannon's way.
I mean, who takes getting fired well?
And here's Rich Gannon to protect as well the precious Daniel Jones.
And, you know, here's a quarterback, Bruce, that came to the Giants, was not an easy situation, went through coaching changes, coordinator changes, system changes, and, you know, just hasn't gotten the results. And yet he stood at the podium yesterday, and what a class act. He just basically accepted responsibility for his part in it, said he could do better, he could play better. And then you have somebody, and by the way, I don't know who L. Duncan is, Bruce. I don't know that anyone even really watches SportsCenter anymore, and so I don't spend a lot of time at that channel. But here's a gal who's obviously never played the game, but she's going to say something really negative and nasty about somebody who just lost their job. I think that they're better than that, and hopefully she gets reprimanded by her bosses there to say this is not who we are.
He also
reprimanded.
He also said as they went to break, Rich Gannon said, I'm gonna call Daniel Jones. Give him a call to
look at me, Louie.
Look, I'm all for it. Let's be more gentle with the athletes, sure. But Daniel Jones is where we're going to start with it. Like, it was awfully soft. Like, he was terrible as their expectations quarterback. He won a playoff game, and they gave him a ton of money. And did you see what Saquon Barkley did last night?
Now, if Barkley's still with the Giants, it wouldn't make a difference. But your larger point is...
right. But I'm just surprised by the amount of holding him like a Fabergé egg when I didn't think we got that in that market. Since 2017, the teams that have lost the most in that sport are the Giants and the Jets. Mm-hmm. He was drafted very high. He was an unpopular pick. He was thought to be a reach, and he wasn't a very good quarterback who ended up getting a good amount of money that at least in part is the reason that Saquon Barkley now plays for your division rival. It was a disaster. Like, I'm all for let's be more gentle. I'm just surprised that he reads a letter and that's what gets gentle.
He won a playoff game that unfortunately set the Giants franchise back about a decade. But he is being treated well on the way out. You know, Dan, he's doing this at the same time that Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback and making a stink of everything in this city, and Daniel Jones just flying under the radar. He knows the fans aren't happy. He knows the organization's not happy, and yet he still found it within himself to step up to a podium and deliver it. He wrote it down. That's fine. Went to Duke. I understand the shot there. But he wrote it down, and he gave a heartfelt apology about a team that has been very good to him. And so I think that kind of stands
Billy
out.
questioned the heartfelt.
When you write it down, it's
put it on the poll, Juju at Le Batard Show. Is it heartfelt when you're reading it?
And when I heard what Elle did, which, by the way, happened before Daniel Jones got cut, everything that we actually experienced there all happened before Daniel Jones was actually cut on Friday, which does provide some interesting detail here. What Elle did there is what Stugotz does on our show routinely. Routinely. I think also part of this is that it's Elle that is getting this reaction, and there was certainly some there was a little bit of extra seasoning on what the two gentlemen had to say about Elle there, and I don't think that someone like Stugotz ever encounters that kind of criticism.
Exactly. Just plainly, he just said, there's a female on ESPN by the name of Elle. You could have just said Elle Duncan.
They also said a gal.
Who never played the game.
This is the part we're talking about.
But I take issue with a female on ESPN who goes by the name of Elle Duncan.
It could just be by Elle Duncan on ESPN.
Well, the question is, what if Randy Moss said it? What if someone else said it? What if Rex Ryan said it? What if a guy said it?
And intentionally gave out her social media handle so his listeners can force feed hate her way.
I just simply wanted to point out I wasn't even. Why you guys got to put gender in everything?
Sorry.
They was.
did. Well, he started it.
I'm just teasing you. That's my job. I usually do that, but I just heard the way that our show sounds because yes, of course, you guys are obviously right. Don't make it gal. Don't make it female. That's correct. Everything that you're saying. I'm just still surprised though at the precious taking care of the Giants quarterback. Like that's not what Eli Manning played under in terms of scrutiny. The franchise, New York football, is the worst in the sport. Let me explain to you what it is, if I may, that we're presently watching with the Detroit Lions, because 20 years before Greg Cody was born, they were also 10-1. The Detroit Lions are ruling that sport with the positive story, Stugotz, of dragging everybody. They're the worst franchise in the history of the sport. In our adult lives, there has been no worse franchise in football than the Detroit Lions. They've got the best team in football. And over the last 8 years, the thing that has lost the most in the sport is the Giants and the Jets. The Jets are an international laughingstock. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be put on IR here, according to Diana Rossini, or benched in the next couple of games.
Or released also came up as a thing, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Is Ryan Tannehill never going to play again? Because like everyone's just, Ryan Tannehill's going to come in, he's going to take over a team at the end of the year, he's going to lead them into the playoffs. It's like, well, no, now people are going to be fighting over Daniel Jones and possibly Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Tannehill just waiting for the right opportunity.
He waited too long.
Yeah, he did, actually. Now Daniel Jones is out there. It's like, shit.
Right. With the Niners.
Everybody wants in the Daniel Jones game because we've all seen that he's athletic and he can run a little bit. And he
won a playoff game.
And he's got accuracy. But I would ask you all, what do you make of Saquon Barkley last night? And what do you make of what Saquon Barkley looked like with the Giants? As neighbors, you heard him after the game. Let's get that sound here because already, Stugotz, I think we can all agree. We've seen enough. We didn't need to see that much. We all know Neighbors as a talent is somebody who's one of the best receivers in the league, correct? So
that's fair.
We saw that immediately, even playing with Daniel Jones. But with this guy got for Daniel Jones, Stugotz, like, Daniel Jones is now out with the Giants.
Well, you remember the video. Joe Shane wanted to take a quarterback, the Giants general manager. They ended up taking Neighbors, though, because they're stuck with Daniel Jones.
They were stuck with Daniel Jones. Now they start over and will look for a quarterback. But here's Neighbors after the game yesterday as they get dragged by the Bucs.
Go out there first, second quarter, don't get the ball, start getting targets at the end. I mean, can't do nothing. Start getting the ball when it's 30-0. What you want me to do?
Why in the first half are they not looking at you?
I don't know. Talk to Dave about that. Talk to Dave.
That's some good quality gum chewing there.
It is
spectacular.
It was fresh. He literally took it out of the wrapper right before he started.
Let me try and concentrate. Let's play that sound again, and I just want everyone to concentrate on the amount of smacking and really the amount of Giants tension, of pressure, of we are a bad football team that you can hear in the grinding of every smack of that gum.
Go out there first, second quarter, don't get the ball, start getting targets at the end. I mean, can't do nothing. Start getting the ball when it's 30-0. What you want me to do?
Why in the first half are they not looking at you?
I don't know. Talk to Dave about that. Talk to Dave.
That's an angry chew. I mean, he's so right.
It's such a good quote. I can't do nothing. What you want me to do?
At 30-0.
I mean, yeah. As Baker Mayfield is mocking your Italian quarterback, and the highlight of that game. By the way, this celebration.
I love him.
This made me laugh for a couple of different reasons. Not just because Baker gets to enjoy himself, and it's just fun watching him win, and it's more fun watching him with Mike Evans back. He held them afloat while all their skill position guys went down.
It's just fun watching him play. He loves football,
yes,
man.
It is fun watching him play. He got a stinger trying to grab the ball. And right before that celebration, what made me laugh is, so he's weaving through the secondary, jumps up in the air, and barely gets it over the goal line, lands on his back, and the ball, off his stomach, springs 10 yards in the air.
Yeah.
Like, as he barely gets over it. It might have been a fumble. It wasn't. They reviewed it, and he was a little bit over, but he was on his back. The ball springs up, and he immediately goes to mocking Tommy DeVito's celebration and doing the Italian. It's too hyped up, though, is it not? It's too.
No, you have to go over the top if you're mocking it. Yes, you have to.
You do?
Just to make your point. Yeah.
What did that make the score of that game? Was it like 21-0?
I'm not sure
what a disaster the Giants are.
That was great by Baker because people were wondering whether or not he got into the end zone. You have to get up very quickly and just start celebrating, just to throw the refs off the scent, you know?
I think he's right about that. Even though I guess they kind of ruin all that with the replays these days. Did you guys see the one game? There were a couple of things that happened yesterday that I thought were interesting. One of them, Chicago, it looked like, was going to knock off Minnesota before everything happened at the end. They converted on 3rd and 3 to Keenan Allen. It looked like he made an amazing catch. But then they went to review, and he had like a toenail out of bounds. But in the interim, the Bears were trying to get to the line and not allow them the replay, and they got the replay, and the whole game changed after that, where Minnesota never trailed again. I know the game was tied late, but Chicago was on its way to doing something with the replay that I thought that was interesting, because they also, in another game, used a border cam that they were saying, Mike Pereira was explaining that not all stadiums have border cams, so therefore a border cam that had caught a play that should have been reversed, they couldn't use that angle to do it. And I thought, man, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Like, you've got the technology to make it right, but because some stadiums don't have border cams, Pereira was explaining, then you don't get the border cam as part of the review.
What's the dumbest part of that? That not all the stadiums have it, or that they just wouldn't at least take?
Not all the stadiums having it would be the
Well,
dumbest.
no, but I would
if you
say,
have it, though, I mean,
no, but
use it.
I would say that the dumb part of it is you've got proof that something should be overturned, and you can't use it as proof because not all stadiums have a border cam. That, when he said it, I'm like, that can't be true. That cannot be something that they're deciding not to review because of a border cam situation. I immediately thought that that's something that couldn't be so. But if Pereira at this point has the credibility that you assume if he's saying it, it's just so, correct? He does have that credibility. He doesn't get these things wrong. So then how the hell does that happen? How the hell do you have the proof on something in a border cam situation? I didn't think I'd be talking this much about border cams today.
Interesting, yes.
I didn't.
Right. But I understand why you are. I mean,
the point that I was initially making on the Keenan Allen play, Stugotz, is Eberflus is going to get fired because his name is Eberflus.
Yes. Should have been fired already.
Right, but he's going to get fired.
Never should have been hired.
That team can't win, but they had that game. Like the difference in that game was nothing. It was the play I'm talking about is an amazing athletic play that looked like a catch to everyone involved, and one toenail was out. And as they tried to rush to the line to get the playoff so they couldn't do it, in a moment of good coaching, Minnesota stopped the play.
It's a game of inches, Dano.
Well, it's not just a game of inches. Those third and fourth downs become so important that it's the difference between Chicago being 4-7 and 7-4. Like, they've lost 3 games like this. We'd be talking about Caleb Williams totally different, even though he's getting sacked 8 times a game.
The Bears are 5-18 in one-score games under Matt Eberflus.
Oof.
Wow. I mean, awful.
He's been in that many, huh?
Pretty crazy.
But like, I could say the Dolphins have been in an equal amount of close games. With them, you want to write off, but the Bears are close to being good. Like,
what does that mean?
I can't figure you out.
The Chiefs have only played close games for the last 2 years.
That's our point, kind of, with all this, that every team, these teams aren't that far apart. And like, I want you to believe in the Dolphins, Dan. That's really what's at the crux of this.
He's not going to do it, man.
I do love that became about the Dolphins.
But it's not that I don't believe in the Dolphins, Chris. I will say to you, their offense is a special thing when they're healthy. That's not up for dispute. They're going to score about 30 a game if Tua's okay, but the whole thing's built on something fragile. And beyond that, they're going to have to go on the road and win 3 of these games. Maybe they win out and then get a home game, but you're going to have to win 3 road games. And so while I want to believe their offense can do something that would be a reason for hope and that they would be closer to what it is that they were last year than what it is that they've looked like this year, I just don't believe that they're as good as the best. And I don't know how many different times you want Buffalo to prove that to you.
I think, to Billy's point on this being Tua's biggest game of his career, more so than just the playoff implications, I want to see Tua play well in the cold. If he plays well in this game against the Packers, that will at least give us something to be like, okay, maybe he can do this down the road.
You need proof.
So it's just like, so there is value in this game of just show me you can play well in the cold.
But can I ask this question and just, I don't know if it's a stupidity to ask you this question. The way that they play offense, if it's cold and windy, right? Not just cold, but if the elements are actually something that affects play.
By the way, it's going to be cold and rainy and windy in Green Bay on Thursday.
Are you sure rainy? I thought it was supposed to be dry but very cold.
I see rain.
Okay.
They also have been playing offense differently as of late. Like, they haven't been just throwing it over the top because that's been taken away from them. They've been doing a lot of shorter passes. They've been kind of getting what they've been given. So their offense isn't exactly the same as it was last year, which may benefit them in the cold.
To Billy's point, Tua has the lowest average depth of target in the NFL at 5.6 yards. He has the quickest average release time. He's one of 4 quarterbacks averaging a positive EPA on throws behind the line of scrimmage, and they've been able to attack the middle part of the field a lot better with, medium level passes as opposed to just bombs. Tua, since returning, hasn't thrown an interception on a pass over 15 yards. So they're using the shorter part of the field. They're using motion a lot more, and they're even able to establish passes that aren't just over the top. That should help in the cold. All of that was per the Ringer.
But to Dan's point, we're asking a Dolphin, and it's asking a lot. Do you have confidence? Now, I'm fine with it. I just want them to get to the playoffs, because you get to the playoffs, you have a chance. But they're going to have to go on the road and win 3 games against like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the Chiefs, Buffalo, something like that. All outdoors, all cold weather places.
Let me do it another way, though, okay? Because you are right. They have been creative over the last 3 games, playing subpar teams over the last 3 games.
And playing at home.
Yes. But the question that I haven't fully gotten out to you, because, yes, they are playing differently the last 3 games or 4 games, using motion, shorter stuff. Last year, he got rid of the ball just as quickly, and they had per yard more downfield throws last year than this year. But I simply assume it, and you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong. That's like a Ferrari in the snow. That shit's not going to work in the snow. That stuff, if it's windy out there and everything is on timing and everything else, I don't believe that whatever that thing is going to out-physical what Philadelphia and Detroit are. I know they're in the other conference,
Right.
but how they're going to play in the snow, or for that matter, how Baltimore and Pittsburgh are going to
Or
also
Buffalo.
are also going to play in the snow, because they're not as precision and timing oriented, and so therefore in perfect conditions, yes, of course, healthy, that's fine. But now I make it something that's slop. I assume it doesn't work in the snow. It's never mind that I need proof. I'm like, that shit's not working in wind.
So I agree with you, which is why Chris is intrigued by this game coming up, because he needs proof. He wants to see them do it. I agree with you.
But you also understand that I'm saying Josh Allen works in snow.
Yes, of course. And it works in the sun as well. It works when he's playing outside of the snow, too. I am with you. I think the Dolphins' offense, it's why last year we were saying, I remember me and Greg having that conversation about the Dolphins have to get the 1 seed or the 2. They have to play some home games in the playoffs.
Miami,
because their game doesn't travel.
Miami collapsing in December, that is not choking. That's environment happening to something that doesn't work in that environment.
Well, they've choked at home the past couple of seasons in December also. But if you're playing Detroit or if you're playing Philadelphia, it's best case scenario because you're in the Super Bowl and you're playing in a dome. So that's not going to be an issue.
I just made it them instead of Baltimore and Pittsburgh. But you like a game dragged down into the muck against a Pittsburgh when the strongest thing you have, like when I say Ferrari, look, forgive me. I'm saying that I assume that we all understand this is a precision machine that would work the way that Aaron Rodgers worked when he won his one title. It's go through domes. Go through domes because you don't have those one-game samples where wind can throw off accuracy, and all of a sudden your greatest weapon doesn't get to be your greatest weapon anymore.
Oh, do the Dolphins need the Chargers in the first round?
Please. But I don't think anyone thinks they're going to go on a run and win the Super Bowl, right? Like, that's not what we're saying. I think that you're just excited with the way the team is looking and think there's a chance to make it to the playoffs. And again, like, what is a successful season? Because if they win a playoff game, granted, it's not the Super Bowl that you were hoping.
That's
but like,
success.
It is a step forward, and you don't want it to end there. But
where are you on this? I want to pin you down, and I want to move this off. I want to move off this subject. Yes.
I'm trying to pin you down.
No, you. What do you mean? I've been pinned down
No,
already.
you can't even tell us what a successful season is.
Baby.
I thought this season was about getting to the Super Bowl. I thought that's what we were all doing. I thought
But
we
then
were
you
all
lost
in.
your quarterback.
But I thought we were all in on contracts and everything else, that this year was a Super Bowl season.
Who is pinning who in?
Yeah, let's all pin each other.
Right. What's happening here?
Well, I want to pin Billy in on the idea of, he has told us, and he's enthusiastic now. He says they're in the mix. He's been saying for 3 weeks, even when they were 3-6, he was saying that they're in the mix.
They were.
Right. Is this you pinning him? What are we doing?
I'm
pinning him?
confused. I'm confused. I feel like I'm going to be misrepresented here.
You pinning him in or down?
Yeah,
I'm going to pin him in and down.
Wow, both.
Friend of Dorothy.
I kicked out.
You're in a bad mood today.
No, it's just, I want him publicly on the record, because this is what happens. He's like you this way. He says things and then denies that he says them, and then we have to go look it up. But so I want to get you on the record with where you are, because you're making me, Guy, I remind you, I'm not allowed back on the bandwagon.
Correct.
You kicked me and Jeremy off of this bandwagon because of how it is that we reacted to Tua's last injury. You told us we can't be a part of this, and everything you said was going to happen has since happened, where the Dolphins have won those games, and it's a back in the mix conversation. So what is a successful season to Billy Gill? What is Billy Gill saying the Dolphins are going to be, as opposed to pinning me down and in? Wow. What do you think, in and down?
I mean, if they're able to make it into the playoffs from where they were, I think that that's a good season. It's very disappointing from where you were at the beginning of the season, but to turn it around and make the playoffs, I think would be a good season. Then once you get there, you want to see them take another step. Now, unfortunately, like on their timeline, you're kind of running out of time here with this core of people. So you need to do more than just win a game. If they get in, they could potentially be on a run. Like, I think best case scenario with the way the AFC is right now is you get Kansas City. Like, you have Buffalo jump Kansas City, and you get Kansas City in the first round. Because we saw yesterday, I mean, the Panthers.
You want Kansas
the
City?
Panthers
That's
almost
the team
got
you
Kansas
want.
City.
I love that we're back here again.
You're not going to get
right
Denver in the
for the
first
taking.
round.
We're talking about 3 seed. We're talking about teams that could realistically be the 3 seed.
You're not
going to
get Denver in the first round.
I thought you were doing all of the AFC.
No, I'm talking about first round
First
to get
round.
a playoff
We're
win.
gonna
You
we did
don't
this
want
last
Buffalo.
year. You're going to do this
Do you want
again
Buffalo?
with Kansas City?
I'm asking you. Do you want?
We're
Dan,
not saying we want Kansas City. We're saying of our options here, they seem beatable.
Let me be clear. You guys are saying what you're saying. What I'm saying is I do want Kansas City.
Oh no,
That's the team
wait
that
a minute.
they
I'm not doing
Dan,
this.
they barely beat Carolina.
Stugotz major penalty, 5 minutes for talking about the Chiefs.
Your opinion is invalid. What? You keep questioning them and they keep winning the Super Bowl. You are no longer allowed to have Chiefs opinions.
Eventually I'll be right.
Yeah, no, you're not going to be allowed to say it around here. You got to get out of here.
By the way, your dad left.
You guys, how can we not execute anything?
We execute. We're like, Poppy, keep meandering. And then he just leaves. What do you want from us?
Got out of there like George Will got out of that strip club.
Would you rather Buffalo than Kansas City? No chance.
The only reason I think that I'd rather Buffalo instead of Kansas City is because you play them so often that you're not afraid of them.
That's
that
true.
you're just that you're.
But they beat us so bad.
They do every time.
won
But
by
Kansas City
3
beats
last
everybody. They beat
But
everybody.
barely.
Play off-roading from this weekend and the stuffy Harvard Yale people.
But the rumors are that Harvard is better than Yale just academically. What do you have to say about that?
Come see me in the classroom. One-on-one in the classroom, note-taking contest, whatever class you want to take. I'll 1v1 you. Come find me in the classroom.
Hi, Dan. It's me, Lucy, and we are here in Cambridge, Massachusetts at one Harvard University where their most famous alum, Pablo Torre, attended. We're here for the game, Harvard-Yale, to really capture the experience. And also, potentially, if it worked out, it would be nice if I found a husband here. But we're here to work, both for our job and work to find a husband so I don't have to work anymore. How do you just feel about Yale?
Who?
Are people who go to Yale entitled or no?
I mean, we're in New Haven, man. We come out of the slums, you know. Like people at Harvard, I mean, you got such nice buildings around. I feel like it's easy to take it for granted, you know.
And how much do you hate Harvard?
This much.
They're cocky, they're pretentious, and their food sucks.
Everything is about Harvard in Boston. You go to the airport, and it's all Harvard, Harvard, Harvard. There's more than Harvard in Boston. Harvard sucks. Okay.
There's a reason you're interviewing us right now, right? Because you guys want to be the best of the best in your craft.
I personally don't care that much. I'm more so here for the vibes. I'm here to make friends. I think we need more peace and community, actually.
So what's your record? So who has the Ivy League title already? Wait, so who has more Rhodes Scholars? Who has more Nobel prizes?
More Rhodes Scholars!
Oh my gosh!
I have heard that this game is much better at Yale. Do you agree?
I agree. You have mean people here at Harvard. It's Boston. You gotta expect it.
What makes it more fun?
You don't have to pay $75 to get into a bad party.
So the behind the scenes of off-roading is we have a producer here. He has been out here for a while just begging somebody to talk to us. Poor boy. He's just a poor boy begging for someone to do an interview. I'm going to pretend to be you, and you're going to be a Yale Harvard student who doesn't want to talk to us. Hey, we work for the Dan Le Batard Show. We're doing interviews. Would you like to be on camera?
Like college interview?
Yeah, like we're just asking.
No.
Oh, okay. Is Yale a safety school?
100%.
Some people just don't reach for the stars. Some people settle.
All I'll say is once I found out I got into Harvard, I threw out those Yale essays. I didn't even apply.
Safety school, safety school, safety school.
How many of these kids do you think got denied by Iowa? Probably a lot of them. They probably all applied. Couldn't get in. What is the worst grade you have ever gotten?
A-.
So
I tried to experiment in pre-med. I did end up with a C+.
Pre-med or econ, just drop it.
But
It's not
yeah,
worth it.
it's not worth it.
You're saying yeah, like you didn't just say the worst grade you ever got was an A-. By the way, if you went to one of the Ivies, let's talk. Mina Kimes or Pablo Torre?
I'm gonna go Mina.
So I'll pick Mina.
I'll say Pablo.
Pablo.
Mina, I don't know.
Mina went to Yale and Pablo went to Harvard. You both lost.
Yeah! Bula, bula!
I'm gonna go Mina to go kick fucking rocks.
What is this?
This is the Dan Le
I love
Batard
this
Show.
show. I watch it every Thursday.
Yeah, every Thursday. We're also on, but not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday when we're also on.
Well, those days I'm busy.
Dan, these are the future politicians, congressmen, doctors, lawyers, CEOs of this great nation, and I definitely just saw one of them break their leg trying to storm the field. Harvard-Yale was actually pretty cool. It was actually a lot of fun. The vibes, they were electric. Next week, we're also going to the game. Michigan-Ohio State. Didn't find a husband here. Kind of a bummer, though. He's probably in a Princeton tailgate or something. I don't know.
Do you like apples?
Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?